it's pretty cool, but true story. It's like I almost blew the first song, like just shit the bed, you know, but I pulled it off.
Hi, and welcome to Before the Break, the podcast where we talk to leading drummers and musicians from around the world and discover their story before they had their breakthrough moment. My name is CJ Nash, your host, and I hope you guys really enjoy this episode. G'day there, guys, and welcome to our first episode ever for Before the Break. A quick introduction for our guest. He is a Sonar Drums endorsee, Sabian Cymbals, Evan Drum Heads, Regal Tip, Trick Drums, Audio Technica, Drum Dial, Hardcase, the Kelly SHU, and Elisa's Drums. He endorses all of them. He is from Vancouver, Canada, formerly of the Devin Townsend Project, also very much involved with his RVP, Health, Body, and Mind. But on top of that too, he is currently playing with Imonolith. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to introduce to you all Mr. Ryan Van Poederooyen. Welcome to the podcast, good sir.
Thanks, CJ, and nice job on pronouncing my name, buddy.
Did I get it right, Poederooyen?
You got it right, man.
Yeah, I know. Great. Honestly, even doing this a couple of times, I had to like really triple check the spelling of your last name, which I'm sure quite a few people have gotten wrong.
Yeah. No, it's very common, except for when I tour the Netherlands. There's never any problems there.
Oh, right. Naturally, of course.
They actually say my name better than I say my name. You know, so they got this crazy ass Canadian accent, and they have this Van Poederooyen, you know, and roll their R's and shit. I'm just like, it's Van Poederooyen.
Yeah, fuck it. Well, mate, thank you so much for taking the time today to chat. I did put up a brief little episode, an introduction as to like how we met and how everything that we've kind of done over the past couple of years, you being my teacher, like how I came to discover you before I even got to meet you, let alone have lessons with you. So if you want to hear that story, go and check that out. But firstly, I do want to ask yourself, man, where are you in the world right now and what are you up to currently?
Well, you know, it's been an interesting past few years. And, you know, with COVID, that shut down everything musically. Luckily, I teach worldwide. I can teach online, and I teach a couple music schools here in Vancouver. So that kept me busy. But now that things have kind of reopened again with touring and all that, I'm just busy setting up tours for Imonolith right now. Still doing session work. And I still teach full-time around the world in town here. And then I also do some lead coaching, too, with our RVP, Health, Body, and Mind. So, you know, I got multiple streams of careers going on, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you're fingering a bunch of different pies right now.
I do. I like to keep busy. And the thing is I'm doing what I love. I actually don't work a day in my life, to be honest. You know, it's like I love what I do. So to be able to have all those different streams of income in one way, but in another sense of passions and things that I like keeps me busy. And, you know, if anything goes down like touring or whatever, like COVID did, I got lots of things to go back on and to do, right? So I'm doing all those things that I just mentioned right now. It's actually super busy for me. So things are going great, you know, and just always striving to do the very best that I can.
That's awesome to hear. And I do want to kind of come back and touch on a few things you have mentioned there, but you are on a podcast called Before the Break, and this whole idea of this podcast is to talk to very successful and long-time successful drummers and musicians like yourself that have, you know, had such a long-term successful career. And as we both know, these things don't happen overnight. So I want to crack straight into it and really dissect a lot of your history, because I know quite a bit of it, but I'm sure there's some things that you're going to tell me that I and a lot of people have not heard of before. So the first question we are always going to be asking on this podcast is, what do you define as your breakthrough moment?
Well, it's pretty, that one's pretty obvious, actually. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give you a very interesting answer, CJ.
Okay.
How it is there's actually 2 breakthrough moments in my life. And I believe that everyone possesses 2 breakthrough moments in their life. And you're like, what the hell do you mean, Ryan? Well, I'm going to tell you. The first breakthrough moment was when I was 12 years old. And a lot of people are, you weren't a professional musician at 12 years old. No, but that's what set everything in motion. There's a point in everyone's life where the passion is ignited. And without that spark, you never end up doing, I could have never done what I'm doing today, and which I'm very grateful for. So this is how I like to explain it. I started drumming when I was 10 years old, got into it. And my dad playing cover bands, and I'd always go up after their sound checks and bash around on the drums. And he asked me if I wanted to play. I was like, yeah, I want to do that. That's exactly what I'm doing. That's fun. Hit shit? Yeah, let's do this, right?
Yeah.
And so he came home from work one day, and he said, okay, we're going to start you drumming. I'm thinking, here comes this drum set. I can't wait. Let's set this up and get going, right? And he walks in with a practice pad, pair of sticks, and a copy of the book, which I think is the best book in the world for drumming, called Stick Control. And I was like, at first let down, but at least I got sticks, a practice pad, and, could get going with lessons and start learning this book. For a year, my parents made me practice on that pad, pair of sticks, and the book. And after a year, Dad said, okay, we're going to upgrade you. And I'm like, here comes the kit. I'm stoked, right? And yeah, he comes home from work and he's in a truck. And he usually, we didn't have a truck, so he had to borrow for someone. So I'm thinking, okay, if it's a truck, there's a drum kit in there. And as he goes to reach in, I'm like, what's it going to be, like a floor tom or the kick drum? And he pulls out a set of practice pads, not a drum kit. So at first, I'm kind of let down because I'm like, where the hell's the kit, But then I realized, it's a drum kit, but it's just practice pads, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And kind of the equivalent to what electronic drum kit would be these days. And so, I just pounded on that thing for a year and kept taking lessons and learning all of stick control and just getting my chops up and learning the fundamentals of drumming. And just I was taught the right way. And thing that I love is, side note, my parents disciplined me in such a great way, and they made me respect the instrument. They made me respect learning everything about it and not cutting corners. And I earned my drum kit. So fast forward, 12 years old, drumming for a couple of years, Christmas morning when I was 12 years old. And wake up like we normally do, my brother and I, Jason. We got up and started walking out of our bedrooms. And normally we would set up the Christmas tree in the living room. But this year was a little bit different. Dad set up the Christmas tree in the rec room, which was way on the other side of the house. And I was like, that's super weird. So anyways, we didn't think anything of it. We're walking through. We walk out of our bedrooms. You go into our living room. And then you'd walk into the kitchen, and then around the kitchen was a rec room. And as we were approaching the kitchen, we get in the kitchen, we're about to walk in the rec room, and we hear these noises. I'm like, what the hell is that? It's 5 a.m. We get up super early to check our stuff out. We're allowed to open the stockings, no gifts. And anyways, walking closer and closer, and we're hearing these sounds. We're like, what the hell is that? Parents are in bed. We're like, so being the brave big brother that I am, I sent in my little brother to go check out the scene. And Jason walks in there, and holy shit, man, blood curdling scream. I thought, oh, he's done. Michael Myers has him. It's over, and he's coming for me next. It's like, and he runs around the corner. He's like, it's a drum set, and I just throw him over. Get out of my way. So I have a question for you, CJ.
Yeah.
12-year-old RVP, what's he going to do at 5 a.m. when he sees this drum kit?
Oh, he's going to play ZZYX straight away.
dude, I just beat the shit out of that thing. And I was like, and I'm, to this day, I've never seen my parents move so fast in their lives, right? And anyways, they come running out. My mom's screaming at my dad, I told you to do this, you know. And my dad just has this big shit-eating grin on his face, like, yeah, this is what I thought. You know, he's just proud, right? So this was the groundbreaking morning. I telling you the whole story. It's a good story, but this was the first breakthrough. My dad calmed me down, got me off the kit. I looked up at my dad with like fire in my eyes, and I was just like, when I grow up, I'm going to be a rock star. And I meant professional musician, by the way. Can't stand that. But I said, I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to be a mono drummer. I'm going to get the biggest drum companies to endorse me. I'm going to have my name on my drumstick. I'm going to, like, I just listed everything. I'm touring the world. I'm going to be in a big band, all this stuff. And today, everything I said to him came true. I have been a drummer as a main feature with Dave Weckl, one of the great drummers on the planet. We shared that issue as the two main features. I accomplished that dream. It's a very hard magazine to get into, never mind a feature. And then, you know, well, here you go. I got drumsticks. And you know what? Here's a pair of DTP Van Poederooyen sticks. You know what? Which is a very special time in my life, and that was another thing we'll get to in a sec. But I accomplished everything that I said. And, you know, without that breakthrough moment, for me to be that inspired to ignite that passion, there's no way I'd be talking to you right now. There's no way I would have done the things that I did in my life. Now, fast forward, I go through the Vancouver music scene, bust my ass for years. At the age of 29, I got a phone call. And this is the big breakthrough, I guess you could say. This is the one that changed my life. I get a phone call, and is Ryan there? I'm like, yeah, this is Ryan. Hey, Ryan, this is Devin Townsend. I'm like, what? He's like, this is Devin Townsend. I'm like, bullshit. You know? And anyways, he got my number. To this day, I don't know how he got my number. I'll be honest. I have to ask him that. But anyways, he got my number. He heard tons of stuff about me from tons of different musicians, bands, producers, like whoever he spoke to. He heard about me, and he's like, you know, I want to try you out, man. I've heard a lot of great things about you, and I need a drummer for my solo band. And would you be interested in trying out for the band? And I was just like, holy crap, yeah, this would be amazing, right? And I was playing in a band at the time called God Awakens Petrified, and there's it was a metal band in Vancouver, and did really, really well. We were actually talking to a couple labels, and we're close to getting a record deal, which never happened in the end, but did really well. So, you know, it got my name out there as a drummer, and I went out, and I remember when I tried out for Devin Townsend Band was the first incarnation of a Devin band that I played for. Then I played for the Devin Townsend Project as well, which my career with him spanned the better part of 16, 17 years. And anyways, I get to the tryout, and it's Strapping Young Lads rehearsal space.
Right.
That's the other band that Devin had at the time. And the amazing Gene Hoagland was his drummer, who had also done solo stuff for Devin, but Devin wanted to separate the two. He just wanted Gene to do that, and then he wanted a new drummer to do that. And one of the guys that actually mentioned my name was Gene Hoagland, because he had seen me play with God Awakens Petrified. So that was a really nice compliment, and I guess that perked Devin's ears as well, right? So anyways, I had to try out on Gene's kit, because it was Strapping Young Lads rehearsal space. And man, kit was huge, like Gene's wingspan. Like, I'm 6 foot. I'm over 6 foot, you know? It's like, but Gene's like 6'4", I think, and just like ginormous. He's got a huge reach, right? And I remember playing on that kit, man. I thought at first, it's like, oh, cool, it's Gene's kit. And when I was playing, I'm like, oh, this sucks, man. It's like not close. Not even remotely close to what, you know, my setup would be like. But yeah, you know what? tried out, learned all the songs he wanted. And anyways, we're 5 minutes into the jam and didn't even play a song, just jamming on riffs. And he stopped and he said, "You're the guy." I'm like, "What?" So we haven't even played your stuff. He goes, "No, your connection to the snare drum, just how you hit the tone you're getting, and just, you know, your confidence and all that." He goes, "You're the guy." And dude, that was the moment that changed my life and set my career into motion.
That's interesting that you've kind of got two, and you would credit the first time you get a drum kit to then your audition with Devin, I think is like really a really interesting kind of thing. So I want to kind of take you back to, let's explain that day a little bit more as to when, first of all, when you got your kit. So you've explained to me you woke up, you got your kit, screamed with joy and just beat the crap out of your drums. What kind of happened after that? So you did mention previously that you were getting lessons, and that your dad was a gigging muso. Was he a drummer himself, or was he a guitarist, or? My
father's actually a piano player, keyboard player in a band, cover band, and he also taught piano. So I started out on piano.
Right.
But whenever I went to his sound checks, I just ran to the drum kit.
Right.
You know, so after that, you can imagine it's like I couldn't wait to get home from school and play drums.
And you did mention too as well, you did say you were getting lessons. Who were you actually getting lessons off of?
I got lessons by a guy named Greg Bowman. He's a local guy here off Vancouver Island, actually. And he taught me for a couple of years, but I only had like a couple of years lessons. I did end up taking like maybe another 6 months worth of lessons or something like that, 9 months or something, when I was in my teens, like 16, 17 with Greg again. But other than that, I just only had maybe 2.5 years worth of lessons. But the important thing about that is I was taught all the basics, all the most important stuff, rudiments, the different styles of beats, grip, technique. Like I just never, ever forgot everything that I was taught. And then I ran with it. And then I just took from my influences. I took from Tommy Aldridge, you know, and Whitesnake, and you know, it's like back then it's the 80s, you know, and so I'd take from Neil Peart. He's my favorite drummer of all time. Then I got into Primus, and I love Stuart Copeland, and then I don't know, some small little metal band called Pantera came along, and then Vinnie Paul just blew my mind because the guy had so much power and groove, but he could still pull off some technical stuff if he wanted to. But I just love the grooves that Vinnie came up with. So, you know, I'd probably say my two biggest influences would have been Vinnie Paul and Neil Peart. And then, you know, later on, Thomas Hack came along with Meshuggah and blew every drummer's mind. Right. And I'd say my last really huge influence would be Gavin Harrison from Porcupine Tree fame. You know, he's incredible. Oh, 100%. And so like I went through all that stuff, okay, and I just always kept on working at my craft. And my father, both my parents, were very positive influence on me, and they always supported me and they pushed me, and you know, I always remember my dad saying, "You can do whatever you want. You know, you don't have to grow up and work in a grocery store or, you know, whatever." He says, "If you want to do this, you can do it." You know, so the support was always there. And trust me, I got talked down all the time, especially when you move Vancouver, and it's such a big city. I grew up in a small town called Port Alberni on Vancouver Island. So, you know, it was crazy, right? Coming to Vancouver was a real eye-opening experience. I moved here when I was 17. So I was young, you know, and exposed to that. And man, I cut my teeth in the scene for, 12 years. You know, 12 years of doing that. And that's when I finally got the Devin gig. Now I had success in there, but it was just going through all these different bands, trying different things. And I formed my own band, God Awakens Petrified, with my best friend Grant. And that actually got a lot of recognition and started taking off and doing stuff and had labels interested. But just as we were kind of not getting the deals when we wanted them, that's when Devin came into the mix. So,
right.
And it's like I did everything, man. I played metal, I played pop, I played in a hard rock blues band. I did everything. That's the thing that I think is really important for up and coming musicians, not just drummers, is don't pigeonhole yourself into one style of music. Like I'll listen to everything from Pink Floyd to, Pantera to Rush to, it's like, I love Bjork, I listen to classical music, I listen to everything. Bob Marley. It's impossible for you not to hear me blasting Bob Marley in my car during summer, just because it's the mood music, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think the more styles of music you can appreciate, and, even rap, I know there's lots of musicians who are like, fuck rap, man. It's like, and all that shit, hip hop, whatever, there's not even real drums.
Hip hop is welcome here, man. It's one of my favorites, dude.
That's what I mean, man. It's like, I listen to it all. I like it all. If there's something that's hooky, that's got a good groove or a wicked melody, I'm all over it, right? So, it's like I listen to everything, So I think it was really important. And so I portrayed myself and put myself out there in the Vancouver music scene that way. And I think that really benefited me, because a lot of people are like, hey, I saw that guy playing with a pop band. Now he's pulling off blast beats with this band. Like, what the hell? And it helped get my name out there a lot. So be versatile, right? Like, get out there and try different things. Don't just be a metal guy or just a pop guy or a blues guy or jazz guy. Just try a little bit of everything. As long as you're enjoying it and you're putting yourself out there, the much greater chance you're going to have at landing the gig that I did.
And the one thing I did want to kind of backpedal to as well. So you were getting lessons, you were getting a wide array of different influences, drummers, and all of that kind of coming in. I would love to backpedal to a second, as well as to outside of that, like, what was your practice routine like? What were your kind of goals? Like, you had your big goals of, I want to be a professional drummer, I want to do this, I want to do that. But outside of the bigger goals, what were the smaller goals that you had that you were slowly working towards? Because you said as well that you'd moved from a small city to Vancouver Island.
Yep.
What kind of happened around that time period that made you decide to move there, and where was your drumming at then?
Yeah, see, like my drumming then was very progressive, because Neil Peart was one of my biggest influences, and then Vinnie Paul came in and just made it even more progressive in a different way, because it started really getting into metal and stuff, right? So, when I started out, I remember my father just said, when I got to Vancouver, because he was already in Vancouver, and he was like, just go play in bands. Don't limit yourself to one. Get out there and just get known. Go to drop-in jams, whatever, just like try all the different things. And so I did that, and after doing that for 3 or 4 years, I wasn't really getting any traction. So I was like, how can I expose myself more? And the way that I thought about doing that was, session work, that'd be rad. It's like record albums, record different styles of music like I'm trying to do and all that. So, funny story, actually. I went to I picked my top 10 studios. There's like 30 or 40 of them in Vancouver, but I just picked the top 10 and I went to them and I dropped off resumes and just, hey, session drummer, I can play all different styles of music, it's like, would love to be a regular for you guys and that. And you know what? All 10 places were like, yeah, you and about 50 other guys, we got our go-to guys, thanks, but no thanks. And it was just completely shut down. But here's the thing about me. I'm a very positive person, but positivity alone is not going to get you where you want to be in life, So you have to work hard. You have to take action. You have to persevere. You can't quit. But you still have to remain believing in yourself when you're trying to get to these goals and setting goals to get there. So I'm a big fan of thinking outside of the box. So, it's like I've never followed anyone's drum set. I set up my drums the way I like them. It's like hairstyles when I was going through all the various phases in my life. It's like I didn't care. I didn't give a shit what anyone thought. It's like I'll shave my head. I'll do a mohawk. I don't care. You know what I mean? If I like it, I'll do it. I'm not going to let anyone influence me on how I want to live my life. So I was thinking, you know what? Screw it. If these guys don't want me in the studio, I'm not going to let them influence me to stop trying. Right. So I started thinking outside the box. How can I do this? And then the opportunity struck. I was hanging with a buddy of mine. He said, hey, I have a buddy who's playing in this punk band, and they're going into the studio, their drummer can't play the click track or whatever. And so it's going to take a little bit of time. So I was hanging out with him, and I said, so your drummer can't do it? He's like, no, and we have the studio booked and all that. And I said, well, I'll do it. And he's like, you'll play the drums? I'm like, yeah, like I'm trying to be a session guy and I can do it. He goes, you played punk music before? I said, I've never been in a punk band, but I can play it. It's not a problem. Give me the tracks. When do you need to go in? He goes, we're in 2 weeks. And how many tracks do I need to record? 3 tracks. Okay, let's do it. And so I jam with them. They're like, Jesus Christ, yes, let's do it. So I learned the 3 songs, went in there, showed up to one of the studios that I applied at, is what they booked. And the manager, I'm setting up my drums, and the manager of that studio who I spoke to is walking by, and he kind of does a double take at me. And he's just like, hey, where did I know you from? I said, I came in here, a month ago or whatever it was at that point. And I, dropped off a resume to you to say I wanted to be a session guy. He's like, oh, so you're the drummer for this band? I'm like, no. What I agreed to do was get me into that studio. I'll record your drums. Don't worry about paying me. I did it for free. That's the thinking outside of the box part, because I just wanted to get in the studio. It wasn't about me landing the session gig. It was about me getting in the studio so they could see what I could do. And so I spoke with the manager. I said, yeah. And he goes, you sneaky son of a bitch. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do whatever I can to get in here. And that's how I got into that studio. And I said to him, I was like, look, watch what I do, how good I do it. And if you like it, put me on your short list of session guys. Trust me, this isn't my first choice of music either, but I'm going to knock it out of the park. So anyways, then an 8-hour day. That's usually studios are booked 8 to 10 hours. 8-hour day. Took him about 2.5 hours or so. Small minimalist kit, just a snare, rack tom, floor tom, kick drum, couple crashes, ride hats, like really minimalistic. And took like 2.5 hours to get the drum tracks, which leaves you with basically 5.5 hours there to whack out 3 songs. I was finished everything within not the 5.5 hours. I tracked everything in 3 hours. And they had enough time at the end of that where they got bass sounds and all that stuff. And the bass player even ripped out his tracks. So they got it for one deal. Yeah, so we got everything, bass tracks and drums, all done in one day. Right. And manager of the studio was floored. He's like, holy shit. He got drum tracks sound amazing. Tones were great. Playing was obviously great. He was happy. And he said, okay. He said, I'll contact you. I'm impressed. Right? So how this story ends is the punk band could only afford a few songs, but I get a call back from the studio. They said, okay, we'll call you in again and get you your first professional gig here. And I'm like, sweet, who's it with? He goes, that same punk band. I'm like, what? And he goes, they got a government grant.
Right.
And now they were able to come in and actually do a full album properly. So they hired me for the full album, even though 3 songs were already done. They wanted to record the other 7. Cool thing about it is I learned the album. I went in there and recorded the other 7 songs in one day. And they booked like 2-3 days or something for drums, and I did it all in a day. And there's several Devin Townsend records too I recorded in a day, just because I'm a workhorse. When I'm in the vibe, I'm in the mood, I'm like, go, 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 go. You know, I'm a machine, right? I enjoy getting shit done when I'm in the mood and got that vibe, right? But anyways, yeah, I recorded their drum tracks in a day. And the best part about the story is I got paid for the 7 tracks. They paid me for the 3 tracks that I said do for free.
Oh,
so
rad.
I ended up getting paid for the whole record, right? And, you know, so there's this story about me getting the session work. Then all of a sudden, all the other studios start hearing about me. I start getting hired by different studios, different producers, different bands. Everyone knows, oh, RVP does session work, so let's hire him, you know? And that just took off from there. And then another thing I thought about, too, while I was doing it, I'd been drumming now for, it's coming up 15 years, you know, because I was 10, 25 years old. That's when I started. I said, you know what? I'm going to start teaching. I said, let's give this a shot. I'll teach beginners. And I started teaching drummers and at 25 years old. And I mainly took on beginners to start, but, you know, by the time I was 30, I was like teaching intermediate and somewhat advanced. And, you know, by the time 35, I was teaching everything, right? And, but anyways, that's how I started dipping my fingers, my hands into everything in the music scene in Vancouver. Put yourself out there. I have an analogy that I want everyone to know about. I teach this through my RVP, Health, Body, and Mind, like life coaching type stuff, you know, positivity stuff. But CJ, you and I, we go out fishing trip. Okay? When we go out on this trip, you bring your fishing rod, I bring 10. Okay? We're fishing in the same lake. We have bobbers, we have our bait and all that stuff. Throw them in there, you know, do that. Who do you think in that week-long trip that we go on, a fishing trip, okay, you have your 1 rod the whole time, I have my 10 rods. Every time we wake up and we go out and we go fishing, I throw out all 10 lines, you throw out your 1. Who do you think is always going to have the better chance of catching a fish first? You may catch it. There's a possibility. But the odds, see what I'm saying? This
100%.
is why I worked myself the way I did. Is because by the time a guy named Devin Townsend came along looking for a new drummer and is already established around the world with his music, you know, he came looking for me because I put myself out in as many places. I was throwing rods out anywhere you could think, right? And, you know, even people who are watching this who maybe aren't musicians, or there might be some that tune in as well, you know, but this is applicable to any career. Just think outside the box and keep on throwing those fishing rods out there, and you'll be amazed at what you can achieve.
And it's really interesting when you mentioned you wanted to do the show, the session gig for free. When you were doing that at the time, did you think what happened with eventually the band getting the grant, doing the rest of the album, did you think that would come to fruition at that point?
What, doing the rest of the record?
Yeah, and getting your foot in the door with the studio. Did you think that was was really an achievable thing by doing that?
I got my foot in the door by doing those first 3 songs, but once my foot was in the door, the sky was the limit to me. I 100% believed I could achieve anything. You know, it's like nothing was stopping me now I got my foot in the door. It's just like when I started teaching, word got around town, I was teaching. Next thing you know, I'm teaching at some of the best schools in Vancouver now, you know, when it comes to that for teaching lessons, you know, and it's once you get a taste of something and you have that drive of taking action. You have that belief in yourself, and just just never ending, desire to reach your goals and to live out your passion. Nothing can stop you.
Because my one question to ask quickly, to interrupt with that one, is a lot of people that I know personally, and even myself in times in the past, have had these goals that they've wanted to work towards, but sometimes they have moments of a lack of confidence, or they lose their own faith in their own abilities to reach these goals. Did you ever have moments like that before you got to that moment? How did you deal with those moments? What were the things that helped you pull you through that kind of mindset?
That's a great question. And here's the thing. I probably failed. Actually, I guarantee you I failed way more than I succeeded in this life. But the things that I succeeded at were the really big fucking things. All right. And so all those failures, all the things like going to the studio, getting turned down by them all, trying a bunch of bands that never turned into anything. Maybe the biggest crowd we played in front of was 50 people. Like all those things were letdowns to me. Some of them weren't. Some of them I knew were building blocks. But you know what? Failure is your greatest teacher. When you make mistakes, you're actually learning. And that's the thing that most people don't understand. When I see my drum students today, I had a drum student was teaching him Enter Sandman by Metallica, and he kept on messing up that part. And finally, it's just like, just stop for a second. Stop trying to rush it. Stop to, you're not Lars Ulrich. It's like you're just starting, you're learning this, and you're doing great, but you're getting frustrated. You can't do that. So why don't you stop and see why you made that mistake? And this is what you did. This is how you made that mistake. Now we're going to try and play it super slow without the song to a click track. Now we're going to speed up 10 BPM more, a little bit more, get it to the speed of the song. By the end of the lesson, he was playing the part flawless, but he learned that all the mistakes he was making along the way, instead of getting pissed off about them and giving up, which is the biggest mistake that most people make, he realized that making mistakes are actually gifts. They're actually gifts. To fail is a gift. To fail and not succeed or whatever, to fail and then quit, that's on you. You own that too. You know what I mean? And this is the fact, man. The people who succeed in this world, the people who actually succeed in this world, they never quit. How could they get to where they are if they quit? And think about Bill Gates, or, think about fucking anyone. It doesn't matter. Anyone who's, the owner of Dodge. I drive a Dodge Challenger. I had to throw that shit. But like they got there because they persevered. They did whatever it took to get there. So I made and had lots of mistakes. And I'm glad you brought that up. I would have brought it up myself in this podcast because, I don't want to make it sound like, oh yeah, life's great. Everything worked out for me. It was easy. It's like, shit, I was 29 when I got my big break. You know how many times I've heard in the music industry, if you haven't done it or made it by the time you're 25, just give up and walk away.
Oh, damn.
And even 25 saying is too old.
Yep.
You know what? I'm going to tell you this right now. All the people who check this out and hear this, it's all fucking bullshit. I'll tell you that right now. It doesn't matter your age. Think about Rawlings, who wrote Harry Potter. She was almost 50 or something. It's crazy. It's like
KFC, the Colonel, man. Same deal. He didn't make until he was the last decade or so of his life.
Exactly. So you know what? I don't buy into any of that. If you have a passion, if there's something you want to do it. Don't give a shit about what you look like. Don't care about how old you are or what other people said, or everyone says it's impossible to do it that way. Well, you know what? Be the first person to make it possible that way. One of my favorite quotes, I wish it was mine, but the word impossible actually does say I'm possible. I love that one.
That's actually cool.
It's like nothing's impossible, man. It's like records are broken all the time. You know, think about the Wright brothers. You want a story of people not giving up? You know what the Wright brothers did, right?
Yes.
Airplane. Okay, they invented the first airplane. You know how many times they crashed planes?
Oh, yeah.
And people,
but they don't talk about that.
They were almost a laughing stock of the world because they're just like, you're not going to make shit like that happen. And then they did it. And now we're planning on flying to fucking Mars. You know, it's like, and it's all because of the Wright brothers. So, yeah, don't tell me that. You know what? Unfortunately, we probably won't see it, but, you know, some lucky motherfuckers are going to be in a Millennium Falcon doing light speed down the road.
It's just a matter of time, man, until we get to light speed, and then before you know it, Avatar and all these sci-fi adventures are going to be a reality, man. But
right?
I did want to ask yourself too, when you were doing all of this as a musician, and especially as a musician, we don't just get good overnight at what we do. You know, it takes a long time to develop skills and all of that. Plus, before anybody really gets their breakthrough moment, we have to find so many different ways of supporting ourselves. And I know that you got to that point where you were able to support yourself. You were doing teaching, the session gigs started rolling in and all of that. But before then, what was a typical routine week or like day, for example, in the life of RVP before you even got to that point? What was your weekly routine like? Did you have a set routine, or did you kind of wing it? Or
no, I'm a very routine like person, but at the same time, it's like the older I got and the more experience I got, the more I enjoy winging it. Like I love spontaneous shit. Like I'll jump in my car and I'll just I'm going to Whistler. You know what? I'm driving down to the Oregon coast. That's who I am now. It's like, I'm just like live life. Right. But back then it was very routine. And so it was work 9 to 5 at the several different places I worked. You know, I used to be a line cook at a restaurant. I used to, I was a collection agent at one point.
Oh,
you know,
right.
Yeah, and doing all that stuff too. Like I did a whole bunch. I sold high-end home audio equipment at a place in B. Sound. That was actually one of my most favorite jobs. And then I also managed and ran a home theater installation company, which was basically the last job I did before I went full-time musician. You know, but like basically a day in the life would be, you know, get up, go to work. I always found jobs where I was off by like two or three. Like get up at 6, you know, get it done. I'd be done, and then I go home, get changed, straight to the rehearsal place, drum for a couple hours, hit the gym either before or after. I've always been into fitness, so I go hit the gym, and then after band practice, you know, go hit the strip club with the guys. You know, there's a place called the Marble Arch that was very famous. It made it in the song Girls, Girls, Girls by Motley Crue.
Right.
And the lyrics even in that song, Marble Arch. And it was right behind our rehearsal space, and we went there all the time. You know, finish rehearsal, go to the Marble Arch, you know, and just hang out. And I didn't go over so well when I had girlfriends, but, you know, it's like, then I take a break from the arch and go hang with my girl.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but yeah, it was like, that was kind of like my routine. And, you know, it's like, Jesus Christ, I haven't been in a strip club in 20 years probably. You know, it's like, yeah, no, I don't do that anymore. But anyways, you know, it was pretty routine like, you know, but it's very business like I had a passion, I had a dream, I had goals to achieve. So it was weird. Even at 17 to 25 to 30 to 35 to now, I was always really responsible. I was always like really on top of my shit. You know, always paying my bills on time, did all that. But yeah, I pretty much had a set routine.
And what were some of the things that you can accredit in your past to kind of, outside of your parents and your teacher? Because there's only so much that they can help instill that. But the action comes from the individual as to what they do. What were some of the things that you can accredit that you were doing that helped you maintain your passion for wanting to do it, but then also accrediting it to how you were moving forward with your goals and goal setting and all of that. What can you accredit in your life that has helped you be able to build that? Obviously, it got you to where you are, but what was the one thing that helped build that for you?
You know, a couple things that come to mind right away was I would always put myself in a group of people that I could learn from. So I was always, if there was a band that was taking off and they were kicking ass in Vancouver and everything was going right for them, I would make friends with them. I'd get to know them. And then, you know, I'd support them. But at the same time, I'd ask them questions. And you know, they would introduce me to Bob, who'd introduce me to this, who introduced me to that, and Susan. And next thing you know, I'm meeting Devin Townsend. So, like, I would always put myself and always try to meet people and, you know, have my social circuit of people there that I could learn from. Because the greater I got, the more I wanted to learn from people who were up here. Like, even now I'm here, I still want to meet people here. And there's fuckloads, millions of people like that I can meet, you know, so I'm always doing that. So I attribute a lot of the learning and becoming who I was through learning through other people. Because how do you get better? You learn. You know what I mean? And the second thing is stuff like this. This is a great book, by the way. It's called The Four Agreements. Everyone should read this. It's amazing. But I read a lot, and I'd study. You know, it's like I get books on the music industry. You know, I'd get all the different labels, and I'd figure out who was associated to the different labels and who are the A&R people. You know, I'd know people in town who work for Georgia Strait or the Vancouver Sun or whatever local papers here, and I would get into that and you know, get to know people at the local radio station at CFox or, you know, all these. That is a big radio station at the time in Vancouver, and to get on there was a big deal. You know, so like it was just networking. I get that networking done as much as I possibly could. You know, it's like I was always out there networking and learning. You know, it wasn't just to look cool. I didn't give a fuck about that. All I cared about was who can I learn off next? Because the more I learn, the more chances I'm going to get to succeed at what I want to do. So those two things, you know, I'm a big fan of reading. I am. I'm always, the thing about me is I'm always working on myself because I can always be better. And that's not me putting myself down, because I'm very happy with who I am as a person and what I've accomplished in my life, but I'm far from done. You know, so how can I become better? You know, and I want to be better through family. You know, I want to be better in a relationship with anyone that I'm in a relationship with, friends, you know, girlfriend, whatever. It doesn't matter. I want to be able to put myself in a situation where I can always learn from others. And you know, there's opportunity every single day. It's up to you to look for it.
And I did want to actually ask too, because it's kind of been a good balance of the positive with the negative here. But what was probably one of the most crucial life lessons that you learnt that you feel has been really crucial to you getting the success that you've got today? Be it a negative instance or a positive.
Yeah. It's kind of a bit personal, but I've told it before in interviews, but like when I was 16, I had my cousin, Chris, and he's like a brother to me. You know, I had my first beer with him, taught me how to shoot a gun, you know, on junk fields and, you know, motorbikes. He taught me how to fish, you know, just everything, play sports, soccer with him, you know, all that stuff. Right. And, yeah, I looked up to Chris. He's the big brother that I never had, because all I have is my younger brother, Jay. I was always the older brother. And, you know, when I was 15, turning 16 years old, I woke up one morning, Jay and I were I'll never forget it, we're at the kitchen table eating breakfast, having our cereal, and Mom and Dad walked through the door, and it was like 7 a.m. We're like, what the hell? We thought they were still in bed. Then Dad walks in with a big garbage bag of clothes, and we're like, what the hell is this? And I'm looking through it, and I look, and I remember seeing one of Chris's soccer jerseys, I believe. And Dad just said, hey, you guys need to sit down. And he said, yeah, last night Chris was in a car accident, and we're just like, holy, is he all right? And it's like, Chris passed away, and yeah, he didn't make it, and it just it destroyed me, dude. Destroyed for years. Like it destroyed me. But anyways, I'll never forget this. It was like he had an open casket, and before the funeral started, my aunts and uncle, my parents, they said, do you want some time alone with Chris, before, they take the casket out and start the ceremony or whatever, the funeral. And, yeah, it's like, yeah. And I remember I was sitting there, and I grabbed his hand, and he was a huge supporter of me and my music. Right. And, I just said, big part of the story is the reason he was in a car accident is because he was drinking and driving, and he's doing cocaine. He's doing blow. And that devastated me. I was like, oh, it's like, had no idea. And Chris was such a good guy. I just couldn't believe that he did that, right? But I was just like, anyways, I'm sitting there holding his hand. He's laying there motionless. He's in front of me, and I just said, when I grow up, I'm gonna do what I said with music. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna do it. And then I said, and the other thing I promised is, said, I will never drink and drive, and I will never do cocaine. And that's like the last things. I gave him a kiss on the forehead, and and I was also on ball pairs, and I buried him, right? And it was super hard, but something so negative became a driving force in my life, because there was a promise there, and not only for myself, but for someone I really looked up to. He was a huge influence on me. Chris was he's a big influence. But you want to know something? Something so negative like death, right, happens. And the fact that I could take something positive out of that and be grateful that I could learn from that experience, even though it was a negative thing that happened, it propelled me and it drove me to keep on doing what I said I was going to do. So, it's a personal story, and I've fought with it at times, going, oh, should I even tell this? But at the same time, you want to know something? Shit's gonna happen to everyone, and everyone who watches this has had shitty times in their life. I've had my fair share of shitty times the past 3 years, like everyone else, and even the last month. It's like you go through shit, man. But the thing is you have a choice. You always have a choice. You can sit there, bitch about it, complain, be bummed about it, and do nothing. Or you can learn from it, pick your shit up, and continue to do what you want to do in life. My Opa, love him, not with us anymore. He passed away when he was 92, but he had a quote that I've adopted that I always use. And he'd always look at me and goes, Ryan, life is what you make it. And I was just like, okay, Opa, and it's true. It's like, there's an equation I like to use, man. And this equation, everyone should remember. This is a healthy way to go through life and to get to where you want to be. An event plus your reaction to it will always equal your outcome. Again, event plus reaction equals outcome. Okay? So every time something, whether it's catastrophic or it's fucking phenomenal, happens to you in your life, how you react to that is going to be your future. End of story. You cannot argue it. There's nothing you can say to take away from that statement. So, you know, I've made some really bad reactions in the past that didn't benefit me. You know, like I said, it hasn't been peaches and cream for me the whole way, you know, but there's many times where a big decision might be coming up or, you know, what am I going to do next? Like when DTP broke up, it's like I had opportunities to join some pretty cool bands, you know, that are already doing the big stuff, but I really wanted to pursue my own thing. I wanted to do Imonolith. It was always my dream. And even then, we got hit with COVID just as we were about to start touring. I shit you not, 9 days before we were going to jump on a plane, they shut down the borders. And and then every tour we've had since has been canceled. And 2023, we're finally going to get out there and do it. But you know what? You know how many bands caved during COVID? Management companies. We're supposed to be on tour right now. And the reason we're not on that tour is because one of our main promoters went bankrupt and canceled a ton of shows, and that just screwed our budget. So you know what, we could sit there and go, oh, this is never going to happen, and give up. No, it's not even close. We're working on a bunch of cooler tours and even better ones. So you just don't give up. You know what I mean? You keep going, and there are going to be things that are going to happen to you, but you know, your reaction to that event is everything, and that's what's going to determine your future. So never forget.
That's a really awesome lesson to share with us. Thank you for sharing that, mate. So I've got a couple smaller questions to ask before we wrap this one up today. I always like to ask this question, and I think I've asked it to you in lessons before, but it's one I always like to ask people whenever I do any form of interview or podcast. But what is one show that you have done in your entire career that you could relive, and why would it be that show?
Like a TV show?
Oh, a performance, sorry.
A performance. Oh my God.
Not TV show, sorry.
I was just like, show. I don't know, The Simpsons.
The Simpsons. The first time I watched The Simpsons.
Yeah, right. Okay, concert, you know, gig.
Concert, sorry. Concert
Jesus,
that you have physically.
Dude, I've had a fucking long week, so you got to give me a little hall pass on that one. But
it's staying in.
One concert, that's very easy. It would be, I've played in front of the massive festivals, you know, 80,000 people and 50,000. We even headlined some with DTP, and as awesome as those were, nothing will replace headlining a sold-out Royal Albert Hall in England. Like, that's probably the most iconic gig, if not top 3 in the world. It's to be there, and my mom and stepdad flew from little Port Alberni on Vancouver Island to see it. And, you know, our tour manager, Paul Collis, God bless him, he put him in one of the royal boxes up there.
Nice.
And it was we shot a Blu-ray for that. And it was something else. I stood in the same room that the Beatles warmed up in. I'm like, where was Ringo? Where did Ringo warm up? That's where I want to go. You know, it's like, you know, but I played that gig and nailed it too. It was good. And there was some real hard stuff we were playing in that show. And
because that was the one that you did the 2 Strapping Young Lad songs for as well, hey?
No, that was Retinal Circus. That was also in London, but that was the Roundhouse.
That's right, sorry.
This Royal Albert Hall gig is where we played all of Ziltoid 2 Z2 in its entirety.
That's right. And then I had the by request set at the end of it as well.
That's right.
Yes, yeah. Correct.
And, you know, funny story actually about that show was the very, very first song is the first song off Ziltoid 2 and the Z2 record, Dark Matters. And there's a part in it that's complicated, different time signature changes and double bass. And there's a part where there's this rhythm that's kind of intricate and whatnot, and you have to really pay attention to it, right? And specific shots that line up with the guitars, bass, and samples, all that stuff. And so anyways, we're getting into it. It's only like a minute into this song when this thing starts happening, right? But as I'm playing, I'm looking around and I'm just like, holy shit, I'm in Royal Albert Hall. This is insane. There's cameras everywhere because it's being shot for a Blu-ray, and I'm just bewildered. I'm like, this is insane. This is the dream. I've always dreamed of playing here, and I'm doing it, right? And I'm looking up top, and they have standing only room where if it's sold out, they'll put a bunch of people up there. And that was packed as well. I'm just like, holy shit. And then literally I was not even paying attention. I come back to reality. I'm like, where the fuck am I?
Oh shit.
And it was during that intricate part, dude, all of you guys, if you have that Blu-ray or whatever, put it on that first song. There's a part where it sounds like I'm basically doing a drum solo, and that's what I was fucking doing. Like, even at one point I remember Dev going, the hell are you doing, man? And I'm just like, I'm no fucking idea. I'm just listening to the click track. That one's gonna come, one, and then I was in. Man, it's awesome. It's like, could I ever duplicate that? Not a chance. But it's pretty cool. But true story. It's like I almost blew the first song, like just shit the bed.
Yeah.
But I pulled it off.
That's awesome.
And that's just years of practice and not freaking out, just being calm and getting through it, right? But it's pretty. Yeah.
Oh yeah. My very last one that I wanted to end this one on today is I've been kind of holding on this for the end, because you did define your second breakthrough moment as obviously your audition for Devin Townsend Project, the Devin Townsend just at that point. Event, and piece by piece, what happened on that day from the minute you woke up to the minute you went to bed?
So my audition for Devin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually remember it well. Devin and I met, and he drove us to the rehearsal space. And I remember, I believe it was snowing out too. It was like, or I don't know if it was snowing, but the weather sucked anyways. I remember that. It's typical for Vancouver, lots of rain and stuff here, and it snows a little bit once in a while. But I remember driving in the car, we were listening to stuff, and he was just asking me questions. And, for me, I was just like, holy shit, I'm sitting beside Devin Townsend. It's like, what the hell? It's like a week ago, it's like, of course I knew he was strapping in line. Of course I knew who Devin was, but it's like, never ever came close to actually meeting the dude, never mind, going out to try out for his band. So we just drove there. And then I remember I walked in the rehearsal space and I saw Dave Young, I saw Mike Young, and I saw Beeve, Brian Waddell. And just, hey guys, how's it going, right? And I remember jumping on the kit and just playing it a little bit, hitting a couple things. I'm like, oh my God, this thing's fucking brutal, right? Because Gene's setup was so radically different from mine. And we started jamming and stuff. And I remember, and Brian actually confirmed this, I remember Brian was kind of looking, he's like, oh, okay, whatever. And the other guy was like, yeah, it's jamming. And then Dev said what he said. He said, you're the guy, And then we jammed the songs. And one of the big things I remember is one of the songs we were jamming was a song called Earth Day off Terria, his album Terria. And we're playing that. I was playing it with one bass drum, and the pattern is and so I'm like, oh, okay, I'll play the one kick. And we played it, and I remember Devin stopped. He's like, hey, it's good. It just doesn't sound right, though. I'm like, oh, no, that's the exact beat. He goes, can you play it again? And I play it, and he's watching me. He's like, oh, are you playing that with one foot? I'm like, yeah. He goes, oh, no, it's two bass drums. I'm like, oh. And for drummers out there, slow double bass, you see it. Say it, CJ.
Yeah, it's tough.
What's up with slow double bass? Is it the hardest to play?
not the hardest, but if it's fast enough, you want to play it. You want to play it with one kick. You know, like playing slow double bass drum. In my experience, it's hard. It is really hard.
It is, because people are used to that, by going, playing something that slow, and the control you got to have to do it, right? But anyways, I remember I played it, and the first time I played it was kind of shit because I never practiced it that way. Never. I just did it with one foot. And I remember Brian's kind of looking at me, and then he fessed up years later. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember going." I was like, "Fuck, this guy ain't very good, man. You hear him play Earth Day?" He's like, "Fun." And oh yeah, I'm like, "Thanks, buddy." But anyways, we jammed. We got through it all. He said, "I'm going to give you all the songs." Hung out with him a little bit afterwards. And spoke a little bit more. And, and I remember going home, sitting in my living room. I went down the street, picked up a 6-pack, and came back home, cracked a beer. And I was just sitting there, like, in this room, listening to Devin Townsend music that I had to learn. And it was weird because I had this living room, and it's kind of dark, and it's a basement suite of a house at the time. And there's just Ocean Machine, his record Ocean Machine, which happens to be my favorite record he's done out of anything that he's done. Strapping, DTP, anything, that's my favorite record. And I remember listening to all the songs I had to learn off that record, and just like, it was a really cool moment because everything kind of came full circle. Like the Chris thing, the drum set at 12 years old, the support with my parents throughout my life. It all came full circle. It's like, I'm going to fucking do this. Like, this is it. You know what I mean? So this is one of the greatest days of my life, man. It was awesome. It's like, how can you say that's so minute or minimalist? It's amazing. It's the best feeling in the world.
And what was going through your head that morning when you woke up for it? Like, obviously you'd come full circle that night, but when you woke up that morning and you're like, I'm going to audition for Devin Townsend today, what was going through your head that morning?
Like excitement, nervousness. I felt pressure. Not to perform well in front of them, but just everything I had worked for, everything, all the practice, all the shitty bands I played in that didn't work, all the great bands I played in that didn't work, but were still great bands. It's like all of that came to this one point, right? And it's I gotta admit, it's like a little bit overwhelming, but at the same time, and it's not being cocky, it's just, I'm getting this fucking gig. I've worked so hard at this. There's not a chance that I'm not getting this. And I just went in. I believed in myself. There's three things that I'll say that everyone needs to have. These three principles are absolutely key for anyone, and anyone who has ever succeeded in anything in life. Everyone who's watching this, everyone on the planet has succeeded at something. Okay. And the reason they have is because of these three principles: believe in yourself, take action, and persevere. Never quit. As long as you put those three things into your life consistently, not everything's going to come true, but you'll be amazed at how many things will work out for you. And you know what? It's super weird. I've said this to lots of friends and family and all that. It's just like, shit just seems to work out for me, And maybe it's due to those three principles. Maybe I have a little bit of luck. I don't know, but it just seems to work out.
I'll tell you something, and it was something my Uncle Wayne said to me. And I think it's probably the biggest thing that stuck to me, because he's like, I don't believe in luck. He said, I believe you put yourself in a situation to become lucky. And that's a huge thing that he said to me. That's always stuck with me with that.
Well, there's a quote that goes along with that. the harder you work, the luckier you get.
100%. No,
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
So,
and that's it, man. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, it's a cool ride, and dude, I'm far from done. And everything in my life, you know, it's like right down to relationships with the people I have, to my music, to, you know, my RVP health, body, and mind, and driving my Challenger wherever the hell I can go. You know, it's like, man, I got a lot of life left, and I look forward to making the most of it for sure.
Damn straight. Well, look, on that note, I want to say just a tremendous thank you to yourself for jumping on board. It has been such a roller coaster, and so many really good points and things that I feel not only myself but a lot of other people can take out of this podcast. So Ryan, if you want to just plug, what are you up to these days? What is going on in your world now? If you want to give a quick plug, I know your current project, Imonolith, unfortunately is not on tour at the moment, but yeah, give us a quick plug as to what you're up to these days.
Yeah, Imonolith. Check us out. We're everywhere. You know, we're on all the major streaming platforms. Check us out. Give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. That's my main band. You know, I do session work and stuff with other musicians as well, but that's the main focus. And yeah, lots of good things are happening for the band. It's just a matter of us getting out there to tour it now to back up all the good things that have happened. So yeah, we appreciate your support. Check us out. That's huge. I do run another business of mine, which is RVP Health, Body, and Mind. I do some life coaching through it. And I hate using that word, life coaching, but you know what? Everything that I've done in my life, I've basically brought down to 9 different principles, right? And we won't get into it now, but anyone interested in that stuff, I use it with my drum students. I actually use it with CJ.
Yes,
and CJ,
I can testify 100%. It's really, really valuable, actually. I've learned a lot from it.
And so I do that on the side as well. I'm very passionate about it because I love helping people. I really love watching others succeed. And if I can help them, then I will. So that's another thing. You can reach out to me on RVP Health, Body, and Mind. It's mainly on Facebook. You can go there and reach out to me about that stuff. And then other than that, you know, it's just, yeah, you know what? If you see me in my Challenger cruising around Vancouver, say hi. I'm a chill guy. You know, it's like, shit, I have a ton of tattoos and a mohawk, and, you know, if you didn't know me or walking down the street, you'd probably walk the other way. But hey, you know what? I'm an easygoing dude.
I'm just glad you got the mohawk back, mate. I'm just so glad you got it back.
You know what? It's like shaved head, whatever. It's just something fun. You know what I mean? And that's it. And, you know, I'll do it for as long as I like it, right? And that's it. Just enjoy life, make the most of it. But yeah, those are all the different things I'm doing. Check out all those different things. And you can obviously follow me on my own social media. You know, Ryan Van Poederooyen. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Follow me, say hi. You know, it's like I get messages every day from people, right? And yeah, I really appreciate all the support from all the people who support me and any newcomers. And CJ, lastly, thank you so much. It was an absolute honor to be your first guest. So, and I can't wait to get back to Australia. I've toured there, I think, 5 times. And I love your country, man. I can't wait to see you in person and crack a beer with you and cheers you. It's going to happen soon, man.
Oh,
and can't wait to get there. But thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. It's been a blast, man.
Oh, dude, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time. So, look, we are going to wrap that one up there for today, guys.